In a week from now, this stretch of streetcar tracks down McCall Street should be teeming with streetcars. Well, actually, a little less than a week. I think that'll be taking place in a couple of days. And hey everyone, it is Saturday, April 29th. The time is 5:47 p.m. and the temperature is around 8 degrees Celsius. And I am here on McCall Street, and that is Grange Park just to the right. And I am walking south towards Queen. So about those streetcars, well, just to the south of here is Queen Street, and starting May 1st, the 501 Queen Streetcar will divert both ways between McCall Street here and Broadview Avenue, which is in Riverdale, just to the east of downtown. And that's to accommodate construction of the Ontario line along Queen Street. And there's a look up at the OCAD University. So just to the north of here is Dundas Street. So those streetcars will head up McCall here, and then it'll turn right at Dundas, or in reverse. So I'll be walking a stretch along Queen Street with streetcar service for the last time in I think about 4.5 years. So that comes into effect May 1st. And once that stretch has been closed to traffic and streetcars, I'm sure I'll cover it again, but I'll have over 4 years to do that. And this is one of the last chances to record it while the streetcars are still running. There's a turnaround loop. So you'll occasionally see streetcars coming up and down McCall, but nowhere near at the volume you will in a few days from now. And Queen Street between Bay Street and I think Victoria Street will be closed entirely. It'll be interesting to see what kind of space they carve out for pedestrians. Also, given that Metrolinx is at the helm and seeing what's happened at Eglinton, I think 4.5 years is extremely optimistic. They've said the Ontario line is slated to open around 2031. I think a safer over-under bet would be 2035 or 2036. And fortunately, the rain has let up. This is just the second video I've recorded since I returned from my trip to Korea, Thailand, and Vietnam. And it'll be interesting to see if this vibrant stretch of Queen Street will hold to form over the next 4.5 years. I'm going to try to snap a picture of this streetcar. And failed. Maybe I'll just use a screen capture. already hunting for that thumbnail. So between where I just turned off of McCall onto Queen here, and all the way to Broadview, there'll be no more 501 Queen Streetcar service. And here's another one. And the Queen Streetcar is the second busiest streetcar route with more than 8 million boardings, at least in 2021. And it's also the longest streetcar route in the city. It spans roughly 25 kilometers from Long Branch in the west, which is right at the border of Mississauga, just a couple of minutes walking from the border all the way to the border of Toronto and Scarborough. Well, Scarborough has since been folded into Toronto, but that is over in the Beaches neighborhood at the Neville Park Loop. Although over the last several years, it's been impossible to take a Queen Streetcar from end to end. Due to various construction projects. They finally got the mess cleared up at Queen, Queensway, and King in Roncesvalles, which is to the west of here in Parkdale. And the Ontario line, a much needed subway project, one that should have opened about 20 years ago, will run from Exhibition, which is to the southwest of here, off in that direction, and it'll have a stop at King and Bathurst, and then it'll shoot over to here at Queen and University. There'll also be a stop at Queen and Spadina. And then it'll head east, eventually heading north up through Leslieville and terminating at the Science Center station. That's where the Eglinton Crosstown will one day also run from. So this is where Osgood Station is, at this intersection of Queen and University. So this will eventually be a major interchange of two stations, and controversially, a lot of trees were taken down here. We've got the Four Seasons Center for the Performing Arts on that corner, a historical building on that corner, and another one on that corner. So I think this was the best site to go ahead with the station, and there was a lot of crying involved over these trees, but they weren't actually that old or historically significant. It's sad. But I don't really think there were any other options, and Metrolinx has stated they'll be planting more trees than what they've taken down.
With the people that you network with here,
You'll notice a lot of 504 King Street cars are running up here. It's been a while since I've been in the city. I'm not sure what the story behind that one is. Well, the 504s are up on King. And the initial plan was actually not to send the Queen Streetcar up to Dundas, but it was to have them run on Adelaide and Richmond streets just to the south of here. There are two one-way streets that run in opposite directions, parallel to one another. they couldn't get those tracks upgraded in time. I might have to come here and do a video shortly after they've closed it, before all the construction hoarding has gone in. There's a look down York Street into the financial district. So I think Adelaide and Richmond Street will be able to operate as the diversionary route instead of Dundas Street in about 10 months. I think I read that. They just spent about $40 million upgrading, or poured into the construction project. Sorry, I'm still not quite all here. I'm trying to get over a massive bout of fatigue and jet lag and COVID. This was a video I actually planned on doing on Monday. I landed Saturday night and I thought I'd go out on Sunday and just take a walk through the city and see what's up. And I said to myself on Monday I would record this video. And here we are. On Saturday with nothing. It's my first time leaving my apartment since then, so it feels kind of nice to get out and go for a walk. There's the church bells at Old City Hall ring. At least there's lots of sidewalk space here for people to be accommodated by. And in addition to replacement streetcars, or the replacement streetcar route, there'll be buses offered as well. And they'll run eastbound between Bathurst and Broadview, diverting south on Bay Street, which is coming up here. Before I was so rudely interrupted by those bells at Old City Hall. There's another 504 King Streetcar. I was thinking of ending this one at like King and Berkeley, where an Ontario line stop will be going in, and hopping on the King Streetcar, riding that back over to King Station. That might not be in the cards if the King Streetcar's not running on that stretch. So those buses will run eastbound between Bathurst, which is the west end of downtown, to Broadview, diverting south on Bay Street, which is here. And then they'll head east on King Street, which is a few blocks to the south of here. Then they'll head north on Church, and there'll be buses running west between River Street and Bathurst Street, diverting south on Church, west on Richmond, and north on Bay Street. And if you're not familiar with downtown, that probably meant not a whole lot to you, as the rain has started to pick up. So this is Bay Street, and this is where the street will be entirely closed, I believe, between Bay Victoria, which is just a block to the east of Yonge Street. You can see construction hoarding already going in. I think that guy tried to record that little confrontation there. There's Old City Hall. So this is a taste of what's to come. When I lived in Korea, I lived at the busiest station, Gangnam Station, while they opened up a new line. And they did not have to close the street down. They barely closed a lane of traffic, actually. And there was just a nice divider between the street and the sidewalk, kind of like a big blue barrier, and it had some advertising on it, and that was it. And I think all the construction equipment and vehicles were in there. But in Toronto, when we do things, it just looks like a big open construction zone. And there'll be contractors' vehicles parked all over the place, and huge staging zones just eating up prime spots downtown. And it'll take them about 3 or 4 times longer to do anything. It's really quite remarkable to see how long they've taken to build what's essentially a partially underground streetcar along Eglinton. A project that started in the early 2010s and was supposed to open several years ago, and currently has no end in sight. Albeit a lot of the Ontario line is logistically a lot easier, actually, as it'll be using an above-ground rail corridor that already exists on the east end. I think people are very skeptical that they'll hit that 2031 opening time frame.
It does hit you. Oh, no. I mean...
And here's Queen and Yonge, and this is where there'll be another Ontario line stop.
That was 2 streets behind here.
To enter into Queen Station from any of these street corners here, I imagine things will be closed down and rerouted, and all those entrances will be open and accessible during construction. But now we're on the east side of downtown, and the next subway station will be at Queen and Sherbourne. And that's a somewhat notorious intersection in the city. I'll be really curious to see how that area grows up and develops once the subway is servicing that intersection and connecting it to the subway system. And here's Victoria Street. So this stretch of Queen here will be closed entirely. So I imagine this will just be one big open construction site between. It really makes you think, why not just build a cut and cover subway through this stretch of downtown? That's where they open up the ground and burrow out the subway. That's how they built the Yonge line so quickly. And then they cover it back up, as opposed to tunneling, which is much more timely and expensive. I'm not an engineer, I'm sure someone in the comments will be able to chime in on that. Here's what happens when you park your bike in the city. And you'll notice just how different of a vibe there is once you cross on to the east side of downtown. There's the Metropolitan United Church. And I apologize for being completely out of the loop. I've been away for a while, but I'm not sure what's going on with the King Streetcar. I think maybe it is running along King Street because I'm not seeing a lot of Queen Streetcars here, but I'm pretty sure the Queen Streetcar is still running on this stretch. We just haven't seen one since I've been over here on the east side. We'll have to see if one comes up. And the Ontario line in total will bring 15 new stations. Again, starting at Exhibition to the west of here. So these downtown stops will be at Queen and Spadina, which was just to the west of where I started this one. I started at McCall. Then there'll be one at Queen, or rather at Osgood. Then Queen and Yonge. This one coming up will be Moss Park. And I'll finish up at the one at King and Berkeley. Toronto's a bit of an oddball city when it comes to transit. I think it has hands down the best bus network. And if everything is running on time, I think it might actually be the best transit system in North America, with the huge caveat that if everything is running. But a history of cheaping out at the provincial level has led to a severely underdeveloped subway network. And Eglinton West Line was cancelled by the Conservative Harris government in the 90s, even after shovels were in the ground, and we are still dearly paying the price for that. And Reese Martin recently did an excellent video on the partially built Shepherd Line, Line 4, and how despite that being just a 5-stop partial subway system, or subway line, there is incredible potential for that line to be extended and completed. But this line here has been called the Relief Line by most over the years, and in one form or another, governments have sort of been passing the buck. And I think we're at the point of no return. And initially, the Ford government kind of delayed it and then repackaged it and took credit for it as the Ontario line. Why it's called the Ontario line, I don't know. I think that's just some patting on the back the Premier is doing to himself. Just give it a number, call it line 6 or 7 or whatever it'll be. And I don't think the rolling stock has yet been finalized. But on the left is the Moss Park Armory. And coming up is Moss Park itself, and that's where we'll find the Moss Park Station eventually in 100 years. I was not aware this whole section of Moss Park was dug up and closed here. Metrolinx is building the new line, a 15.6 kilometer subway line. Oh, they're doing archaeological investigations on the site. It looks like they'll be storing some equipment there. It also looks like they lopped down a lot of trees. I would normally say losing a park is a giant loss for a community, even on a temporary basis. But this particular stretch of Moss Park never really seemed to be that utilized. The Wing Shop, Sports Pub and Grill. So the other east-west subway line in downtown, or I guess the only one, is Line 2. That runs along the north end. That opened, I believe, in 1966, and that one they did build with the cut and cover method. There's the 504 King. So I was going to head down to King and take it. And this was always kind of a hangout area for a lot of people in the area. Yeah, welcome to Queen and Sherburne. So I imagine there'll be construction hoarding and lane closures along this stretch while they're tunneling and building out the station, which I think will be mostly on this corner here. And you know what? Maybe I'll hop on one of these streetcars coming up. As the streetcar line will be closed all the way over to Broadview, which is well east of downtown. And it's starting to rain. Yeah, there's a streetcar. All right, so I'm going to end this one rather than head to King and Berkeley. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. If you wish to support what I do on YouTube, there's links to my Patreon and YouTube channel membership in the description. And there is a super thanks button appearing below the video if you wish to say thanks that way. Anywho, thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Yoink.
Right.